Cool. We might be close, Alex, if you want to start.
Yeah, I'm feeling very popular today. Lots of people.
Yeah, so yeah, there might be a few people joining us in a bit, but that's okay. We can let them in as they can. So yeah, this is our first show and tell for this project. I'm sure some of you have been aware from some of our week notes we've been sending out about what we're up to. But this show and tell forms part of the sort of working in the open Agile process that we're trying to embed within this project. So what we've got is a presentation, and we'll walk through sort of high level where we are at the moment, and then have a few things to show you. And then obviously questions can be asked throughout the presentation. Just jump in if something is confusing or you don't understand. I'll be presenting, so you'll have to actually open your mic to interrupt me, or because I won't be able to see who's got hands up or anything like that. So I'll just try and start sharing my screen. If you could let me know when you can see the presentation.
Yep, got it.
Okay, so this is our first show and tell, and like I said, these will be so generally 2 weeks apart, and they'll continue on into next year. But this is our first one just before Christmas, so well done to everyone who's made it, who hasn't already started their Christmas holidays. I know that has started. So I'll just get straight into it and start talking about the team. So this project is being done as a joint venture between CDPS and NRW. So we've got a bit of a mixed team with the core team, and then quite a few collaborators and people helping us out from NRW. So the CDPS team, we've got Pete Stanton, delivery manager, who's going to do some talking during this meeting, as well as Thomas Hine, project manager, who will show you a few things that we've got later on, and Graham Moore as well has got some stuff to talk about, our user researcher. Adam unfortunately can't be with us with COVID related issues, which is something that we can all relate to, I suppose. And then from the NRW side of things, I'm the product lead for NRW. And then we've got subject matter experts, Tim and Lucy. Sam is doing us a great job with keeping us in line with the content design sort of element. And then we've got quite a few other collaborators, Marvin from the CRM angle, and he's also helping us as a way into Customer Hub when we do need to start having conversations there. Bethan and Paul Harding are helping us out with any of the IT related questions, and then Lucinda and James are both happy to support with any of our user research questions and interviews that we're going to be doing. So that probably takes that slide. So a bit of background into this project, as in why are we doing this work. So for the hazardous waste, it was picked because we can kind of do quite a good start to finish look at our customer's journey. So we obviously know there's a service, we've written down fragments of a service that exists. There is a service, it works, people are able to complete their regulatory tasks, but not without some pain points and difficulties that we're aware of. So that's why this one was picked. It was quite a good one because we could look at a full start to finish customer user journey. So, you know, really try and look at the overall picture. Who are our users? People and organizations that produce, move, receive hazardous waste. So basically, we're trying to keep it quite open to have a sort of general customer in the waste industry as one of our users. And obviously the internal NRW operations teams, regulatory teams, permitting teams are also the users of these services. So the question, what's the benefit to Wales? is improve the public services in Wales. These are kind of written from CDPS's point of view, as well as ours. So by making it easier to fulfil statutory requirements of registering as producers and movers of hazardous waste. One of the other main benefits that we're looking to achieve with this is actually by upskilling NRW with agile ways of working, designing things to, current and applicable standards, as governed by GDPS for us. So that really sort of takes us through the background of why we're here. One of the other main reasons was we do have a current problem with our data upload for consignment returns. So we're hoping that we can capture that during this project and find out exactly how we need to progress to get that resolved. That takes us on to the end of my section, you'll be glad to hear, and I'll hand over to Pete to talk a bit more about what Agile actually means.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everyone. Yeah, some of you may have seen some of these slides before, and apologies if so, but I think it's really important, certainly on show and tell one, to establish what is the foundation of how we're working and what it actually means and entails, because we keep banging on about a user-centered approach, which has got so many different layers to it. So anyway, a bit more detail on that over the next few slides. Alex, you go to the next one. So fundamentally, projects are broken up into these core phases through this process. The big shiny red arrow shows you where we are at the very beginning of the discovery, which is looking into this, the problem space, looking at all aspects of it really. But then, and as you can see, it develops into an alpha phase, which we'll be drifting into at some point in the future, which is where we start messing around with some prototypes, testing these, iterating, throwing those out, coming up with some others, but really focusing in on the actual target of what we want to be going into with regards to beta, which is where you're getting to sort of building, and then ultimately live with where you've gone. But there's lots that goes on into each of those phases, and I just wanted to cover the specific one briefly, the discovery that we're in, just to give some background around expectations. So next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So again, discovery phase, it's a short time box period to explore this problem space, understand the challenges, opportunities, and importantly, the needs of the users. So the core questions that we need to ask, as you can see here, but just to elaborate, the understanding what the situation is now, really trying to look under the bonnet, see how it's working, how it's joined up, all of the elements that form the piece. Then who are the users and what are their needs? You'll hear more about us understanding the users through our plans with user research from Graham later on in this, so I won't go on too much, but that is the core to this work. Really want to understand the opportunities for NRW while we're in this discovery phase, because there's a good opportunity to actually do that now. And then understand the challenges, both internal and external. So really just trying to lay things down from a place where we can understand it more. We're certainly going to be looking at our assumptions and specifically the riskiest of those assumptions, which we're able to really get those written down, understand, and sort of prioritize as regards to where we should be focusing our attention, and then always have an eye for the vision of the future of where this is going, because it's important to get that right. Again, just from expectations point of view, from this discovery stage, certainly what we won't be getting is all the answers, any sort of detailed specs, a finished solution, a detailed timeline plan, or any sort of detailed costings. These are historically things that have been a focus, from the midst of time, and can only cause problems at a very early stage if you're trying to get locked down in some of these spaces. In a discovery, you really just need the space to understand the problem, but as we've mentioned on numerous occasions, really understand it from the point of view of the users of what the pain points are. On the flip side of this, what you will get at the end of a discovery is, well, a committed, empowered team fired up for the problem. I mean, in this case, we've got a team across CDPS and NRW, which is great. So, you know, we're learning about how we're working, but then all working under the same flag, and really getting under the, you know, getting our teeth into this core problem, but as a team, which is really good. We're certainly going to have a better understanding of users and their needs. Again, that's what this is all about. This is what we're doing, and we'll be able to, you know, tell this story as we go through. We'll really understand of what's hard. It all looks hard at the moment, and it all looks like it needs doing, but we'll certainly be able to have a clear overview of where the tougher bits are and how we could be tackling them. A better understanding of what our goal will be, and how it will benefit going forward. A list of hypotheses, so strong assumptions of what we think will be areas that can be explored, that we can build prototypes, mini versions of things to test with users. Nothing fully formed, but stuff we can really put in front of users to see if this is of interest or not, and because we can learn from that, from the things that we get right and the things that we get wrong. And importantly, a clearer ask for how this should evolve, this project. So there's not any assumption that we make some judgment on a need for money in areas that won't be required. We really want to understand the space that we're in, the problem space, where the focus should be, and that will have a clearer steer on where it should be going in the future. And then, yeah, it's important to have the digital service standard for Wales here, because this is our mantra, this is our commandments that we follow as a project, and we'll be judging ourselves against all of these 12 points and making sure that we're on track with all of the areas here. So again, I won't go through each of the 12. You will get this document at the end of this session as well, so you'll be able to have a look if you've not seen this. But hopefully you can see a sort of repetition of what I've covered in the last few slides anyway, as regards to understanding users and their needs, and multidisciplinary team. We'll cover a few more of these things as we go through this presentation, but I think that might be my section done. So I'm going to hand over to Graham now to give a bit more background to the user research.
Thanks, Pete. Hello, everybody. Yes, talking with Alex, I think, and others about this, we thought it might be good to just have a quick run through sort of first principles, or a quick canter through them anyway, around user-centricness and how user research operates within that, and sort of what qualitative research will bring to the project. I know some of you will have heard some of that sort of thing before, but if you can bear with us, and we'll be sort of open to questions, of course, as and when you have them. Users and their needs are the central thing that we're finding out. It goes through discovery and the rest of the Agile system, and what it sort of gives us, or one way of describing it, is a bottom-up view of a whole system, whether that's a service or a structure or a delivery unit. If a systems diagram is a top-down look at a whole system, what the users think, know, need, do is a kind of bottom-up view of the whole system, and it doesn't sit against the other views. It works with them and it complements them. It adds to the knowledge. It doesn't cause necessarily any conflict. It's also external to the organization. Anything an organization wants to find out about itself using its own people comes with all the assumptions that they had when they built something or that they see from day to day. One of the big advantages and one of the kind of physical sort of evincements that this project has is that CDPS is actually sort of external to Natural Resources Wales and the HazWaste system, which gives it a kind of independence and, as we've been saying, a kind of special ignorance, a special not knowing, no assumptions, no prior sort of knowledge that would guide actions. It all comes in the end from the evidence we gather, and that's sort of one of the bits of value in particular that a user-centric approach does. It gives, because of the way it's done, the user's experience over time. We can look both over the life of the project, but we can dig, because of the way we do it, into what users bring to their experience, even before they have ever interacted with anything that Natural Resources Wales might produce. We are looking to produce a kind of end-to-end experience and journey mapping. This will be the kind of blueprint where people's pain points, pleasures, needs, requirements, and every other expectation they bring and every other sort of benefit that they want to achieve from any part of the HazWaste system or other parts of the service that fit around it. And user-centric sort of research and design is part of this major agile principle of investigate, then generate, then work out what you've got to investigate more and generate some more. That iterative circle. You can always go back to the user's needs, and you can always refine them, and you can always find better ways to meet them as you go through all the phases in the process that Pete's been talking about. I just thought I'd say a little bit also about qualitative research. Obviously, there's loads of data on everything, everywhere, but we are using a qualitative approach. Fewer people, but a much deeper knowledge. We sometimes have the ability to draw on a relationship almost with people in the whole of the process through many of the phases of agile work, or we can draw in at any point fresh eyes to look at something that we've developed or a hypothesis that we need to test. The sample obviously is very important, and so we spent some time doing that in this project. And it really is quite a tricky, fiddly thing to get right, but it's worth it because robust research stems from it, flows from it rather. All the sort of techniques we use, the kind of interviewing people, letting people know before we do, are all drawn from things like human factors studies, social scientists, anthropological studies, bits of psychology. They're all sometimes it's described as an empathic process, but it is really built on some good, long-tested science. And the idea of having a structure that everybody involved has faith in is to build trust with users, so the users can tell you and what they think, feel, need, perceive, understand in more detail and more truthfully and more in the way that they actually do it in real life. Qualitative research obviously gives much more context. If it might not be which of the cells you give somebody to click on an online interaction that really affects how people will how well people will do it. It could be the office they're in, it could be their other jobs, it could be how much they can concentrate in the workplace, it could be 101 things. And this kind of contextual understanding is a big line that runs right through all qualitative work. And in the same way, it unpacks solid facts. People can say, yes, I prefer that, I like that, that always fails for me. I have 10 of these and 6 of these, and you can get hard facts out of it. But it also helps people be confident in asserting and explaining their attitudes, which is a kind of valuable, a kind of super valuable theme of understanding what solutions in the end will work for satisfying the user's needs. We've been interviewing people. It helps if there's a small team to interview people, so participants aren't overwhelmed. But we've been recording a lot of it. And what that means is other people with other sort of mental models, other frames of reference, can also join in analysis. So although there's a kind of few involved at the point of talking to the user, there's a massive potential for drawing in all the clever people who can add details to, you know, what something means that we've gathered. And also, just practically, we can sort of trim what we need to do depending on what we discover. So talking to a small group of people in a deep way is adaptable throughout the project. And if it doesn't work, we'll talk to different people, or we'll ask different questions, or we'll change the framework somehow to get closer to the seam of the information we need. And all these insights will live with the project. If knowing what somebody wants at this very early stage is still valuable knowledge all the way towards the end of the stage when something's live. There's a history that's drawn, that's measured against real people and where they really use these services and products, that sort of lives and forms a frame of reference that has value sort of as long as the project goes on. I thought after talking that much about you know, the basic principles, that we do some, thank you, Alex, just some quotes from one of the people we spoke to. And you can, if you can imagine it in somebody's voice, perhaps, we can always deliver the language of the user, and it always helps to have empathy with what they have to do. So I'm just going to say these, you know, 2 weeks later, the correct submission comes back. That's a typo, that should be Natural Resources Wales, I apologise, with, can you do it all again in this format? And that was a kind of persistent frustration. The spreadsheet isn't user-friendly. You've always got to start again. So it can pick up, you know, quite distinct things about the experience, quite exact things to fix. And indeed, we were able to draw down into greater detail about things that worked in the spreadsheet, things that were good in formats, things that were bad, about various cycles of repetition in the things that happen in monitoring has waste as it goes through different sites at the moment. But also you get information like, I never imagined working in waste, but when I got here, I thought what they did was amazing. It's somebody who reflects that really waste management as it is now is quite a young industry, and it's full of innovation and new things happening all the time. And the systems are very different and from what people would have considered throwing things in a hole in the ground in the past. And then another quite useful thing about even just talking to somebody over Teams, mistakes don't happen often, but they do happen at the weighbridge here on site. And one of the things we've seen with the few people we've spoken to so far is that, you know, they map out a process in a physical space, and they can tell us about how waste flows through those spaces and where different information is gatherable, where mistakes are made, where information can be enhanced. And so we're also building kind of physical maps, which could be complemented further down the line by sort of on-site or other inquiries around how things are arrayed in the space where everybody works on these on-screen things. And just good clues, you know, he's not one for inputting things with a keyboard. Lots of people in the industry didn't, you know, come to it and work in it without any kind of experience of screens or particularly, or you know, the idea of doing an office job wasn't made them do what they want to do. And so the clues can be, you know, top line and specific, or they can be small and give you little hints. And there's sort of a big range. I mean, this is only a tiny scoop from one interview, but as these all come together, we can build quite sophisticated pictures of different need sets, different contexts, and different ways perhaps to go about creating solutions further down the line. I think that's me.
Back to me. Just at this point, we're going to have some questions at the end. We've got a few more slides, but are there any questions at this point? Anything around the user research for Graham? Not to worries if not. like I said, we've got some time at the end as well. So you've got quite a lot of background there of why we're doing this and the importance of the work that we're doing, but just want to cover how we're working at the moment, where we are. So next slide, please, Alex. Thank you. So as you can see here, this is a very high level timeline of when we began, which like 3 weeks ago, and taking us through to end of Feb. I reference here sprints 0, 1, 2, 3. Sprints are what we've set out as fortnightly cycles of us going through the work. So we're able to do it in these sort of chunks because we can focus a certain amount of work in that time for us to establish enough for us to move on to the next sort of phase, enough for us to learn from. And at the end of each of these sprints is when we would have a show and tell to play back to yourselves and stakeholders of where we are, what we've learned so far, what we're intending to do next. So people are coming on the journey with us. So that's what the sprints mean. And as you can see, is just some of the key things that are happening. The common thread through all of this is the research, user research. And even at the end of this project, when we get to the point of our recommendations of where we think things should be going next, and certainly with the options, the consideration will always be that just to keep speaking to users. There's never really a point that should stop. You really need to just keep learning what their needs are. But as you can see where we are, perilously close to Santa arriving, but still lots to do, and a lot's been done before it. Next slide, please, Alex. So I've mentioned we'll be working out in the open, and it was brought to my attention probably only this week that might not mean anything to anybody. So just a moment to pause on what that actually means. Working out in the open is just, again, historically, projects can pop up and teams can be dismissed to go and work on a problem, and then they appear 4 months down the line to go, this is what we think our solution is, and it'll be ready imminently. That's not the right way. We want to be bringing everybody who wants to be on this journey with us. And when we say working out in the open, is that we'll be a reasonably noisy bunch, because we want people to hear and to input in what we're doing and to challenge us, but just to have an awareness. So it feels like everybody is involved, because they are. And they need to know. You'll be finding out what we find out from the users through sessions like these and similar. So some of the areas that some of the tools we'll be using to be able to share this message, certainly week notes, which have started, and those happen at the end of each week, clues in the name. But that's going to be coming from the NRW and CDPS side. So we'll be nice and noisy on there, picking out some of the highlights of what we've been doing, a bit more detail we can go into there. We've already started working with the NRW and CDPS comms teams, and the output from that will be very regular, starting from the new year, with blogging, mini masterclasses in a lot of the things we've just covered today, which we want. Invites will go out to everybody that wants to be involved in those, but we're certainly going to be nice and noisy. I myself have done our first video around a kickoff session that we did in week 1, which was a large workshop where we're really trying to understand how we want to work together and understanding the problem space. So that video exists, and they'll be similar to those. So that's another area we'll be doing. Show and tells, which is happening right now. And obviously we'll be covering, starting in the new year, where we will be focusing on what we've been doing since we last spoke, where we're going to be going next. Certainly the user feedback will be front and center as we're learning from that, and it's influencing our work. And then even the tools that we're using, when we're using Slack as our tool of preference for us to be communicating as a team. We have a team Slack channel. I'm trying to get as many people onto that channel as possible. That's where we're going to be noisiest. That's going to have a good mixture of CDPS and NFW people. And then we have the whole Microsoft suite of tools, which we're going to be able to get our messaging out there as well. and make sure that that goes far and wide as regards to the work that we're doing. So that's working out in the open. What we've done so far, I mean, we've done lots, so I've just picked up really high level, but I'd say the key thing, and I mentioned it at the start of this kickoff session, the team getting to know each other. Clearly we've not met, and it's potentially unlikely we will meet in the near future because of the world that we're in at the moment. So it's important to establish the trust and how we're going to work as a team. And it's really gone well as regards to that, because we've embedded, you know, our likes, dislikes, what we want, how we want to work, the hours that we work, how we feel comfortable, really embedding some of these values in place for us to be, and as we are, a really strong team to tackle the work that we need to do. We've had lots of workshops in place, and essential workshops for us to really understand it. Again, building around the understanding of the users. So, and using the knowledge that we have internally within the team, our subject matter experts have got a head full of information that we're just trying to extract and get mapped down. So an understanding of the user space as we see it now. Adam has been, our interaction designer has been looking into the design thinking. We're heading towards a user journey map to really help us understand the layout, the layground of the world that we're in, and where the users, to highlight some of where the users' pain points are, just certainly their entry points, exit points. And the scope prioritization work was really key. That's something that happened the tail end of last week. But looking under, there's lots we could be tackling here, but it's important for us to break it down, understand it, understand the sort of feasibility of the things we need to do, the advantage to the users for us to focus on certain things. So that works will be carried on, but it's great that we've broken the back of a lot of these things. Certainly from the DEFRA side, we're going to be keeping closely linked with those, and we've met our colleagues over there. They're establishing a team as well in the same space that we're in. So we're already set up for the new year to be keeping looped in with them. Again, working out in the open as they will be doing. And as we've heard from Graham, the user research sessions have begun, which is amazing. And this is going to be a regular pattern, but because it's all built around that, it's just, it's great news that this side of Christmas we're able to get some sessions going, and we're hoping to squeeze in some more even before Christmas. So no pressure, Graham. But yeah, there's lots more we've done, but I don't want to bore everyone with a whole list of things, but certainly we've been busy. But Thomas, you're going to show us just now how we've been working, because our tool of choice. So I'll hand over to you.
I am indeed. And if I can share my screen now, take over. Oh, don't reveal that too early. The secret question screen. Can you all see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a tool that we've been using called Mural, which is a kind of remote whiteboarding tool, and we've been using it as a really good way of working together and working things out together when we can't be in person, to use a whiteboard and use post-it notes on a wall and all that stuff. So basically it is just post-it notes on a wall, except you can add pictures and everyone can move everything around. It's a lot bigger. So in some ways it's better than a whiteboard, I hesitate to say. But when we started, Pete made this incredible kickoff board for us to get to know each other as a team. It was our first port of call. So we did, put down what cat we were feeling like today and what our superpowers and anti-powers were, how we like to work, and we got kind of a good understanding of who each other are. We had this kind of roles and responsibilities matrix, I guess, where we all put down what we thought we each did, and then also what our understanding was of the other roles, so we could easily see where there were differences in understandings, or different where there's overlap and those kind of things. So we got really clear very quickly about what each of us would be doing and how we would contribute to the project. And we wrote some rules about how we work together, and then we start to move into actually the meat of the work we'll be doing and what the discovery is going to be looking at and the alpha will be looking at. And yeah, so we we did that. We had a look at some scope. We actually later, because this, it takes quite a long time, we ended up doing a second and a third workshop on some of this stuff. So I ran a user mapping workshop to understand who the users are. One of the great things of a tool like this is everyone can contribute equally. There's no kind of loudest voice in the room because you are all putting down the same size Post-it note. And you can put them down blind, so you can do it without any kind of groupthink or bias affecting stuff. So we did this, and we wrote down who we thought all the users were for hazardous waste, hazardous waste registration and permits and all of that. And we started to map out what we thought the process was now that they have to do, the jobs that they have to do, from a high level, not just they fill in this form and form 71B or whatever, and permit 79, none of that, just the fill in a permit or apply, that sort of level. And started to also map kind of the when they do this and the where they do this and the why they have to do this, to start building empathy with the users, to understand, okay, put ourselves in their shoes. Am I a scrappy who's spending most of the day tearing cars apart and then has to go into a little corner where I've got a little laptop and try and fill in this really long form, and try to understand, okay, in that situation, how can we make that easier? How might we do that? We ended up then making it a bit neater with some colors, and kind of mapping out the whens and the wheres and the whys to the different parts of the process. This is actually it was really interesting to do, and brought out a lot of kind of different things that we wouldn't have thought of otherwise if we just kind of written them down or kind of asked our subject matter experts to write them down in advance in a document. It was a very live discussion, which also gave us a kind of a documented output that we can then refer to. I think that's the real benefit of this type of workshop and this type of tool, is that you get the benefit of that discussion and just the chatting, but also it's there on the page or on the screen, I guess. So we've mapped that out for a bunch of different user groups. That's going to really help direct our user research and improve our understanding of what's been going on. And then a third quick one I want to show you as well is a workshop we ran called Scopey McScopeface, which is looking at the scope of our discovery, because it's such a massive area and we only have limited time. So we wanted to kind of really get to grips with what were the really important things we really had to look at, what are the things that we would like to look at if we have time, and what are the things that maybe can be looked at later on. So we all put down what we thought we should put in scope, and kind of blindly, and then revealed, grouped them up, and we did the same with what we thought wasn't in scope, which is less stuff, which shows you how much stuff is everything might be in scope. And then we did a prioritization exercise to look at, okay, what things are we think are the most important to look at and most valuable, and what things are the easiest to look at. This isn't necessarily like what the solutions, how easy the solution might be, is more like how easy do we think it will be to find out enough about the problem to know what to do next. So we came up with this kind of this order of things in the top right areas, things where we will definitely look at, things in this area, things that we will definitely try and look at and probably will look at, and the things further back, things that we might get to later on. But actually, I think as we kind of looked out a little bit, the things in the top right are kind of the high level stuff, and the things further down to the bottom left are things that feed into those things. So we're quite happy with how that turned out. And then we tried to sort of turn that into a problem statement. I've got our draft problem statement here. This is still draft because we only did this yesterday. So this is kind of the thing we're trying to solve, and the thing that if we can do this, we've done a good job in the discovery. And that, this Scopey McScopeface session took an hour, and then I think we did the problem statement thing in another hour. And we got a load of great understanding from that. And it's a really good way of kind of delving deep into a problem and a problem space without it feeling really, really treacherous and painful. It's quite a fun way of, you're just having a chat really with some post-it notes, but it builds up really good understanding. So that was that. So yeah, I think then the only thing left is any questions. If anybody has any questions, we'll just skip right to the end. If we can. Oh, no.
Rob's had his hand up, I think, for a little while now. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi guys. Yeah, I'm Rob. I manage the NRW Development and Innovation Program of ICT projects. It's about 50 projects a year, right? To give you a kind of bit of context on why I'm asking these questions. And I've got a whole series of questions, so I'll ask a couple and then I'll disappear and somebody else can join. I know it's early days and you haven't had many of the focus sessions yet, but have you got assisted users and Welsh speakers in those user sessions so far, or is that going to come later?
For this, our sort of first foray into the external users, in the recruitment we've got, just to get us moving, users are self-selecting. So there's a Welsh language version has gone out at exactly the same time as an English version invitation to participate. So they're sort of equal pegging. And at the moment we've got English speaking respondents, but we haven't despaired of finding Welsh speakers to respond and engage. In terms of kind of assistive requirements, we've got our kind of mind open to that, and we've got some sort of nets in terms of our analysis structure to be able to capture them. But for the discovery, it is much more difficult to get hold of people, and also encompass which needs we have to assistive needs we have to sort of concentrate on to get something done. Which doesn't mean we won't start in these early interviews to build a picture, but we expect it to be slow in discovery.
Okay, thanks. Can I ask another one? In one of the early slides, I think it was Pete's slides, you showed the breakdown of the sprints, right? And what I'm trying to work out is where does this discovery finish and the alpha start? Because I don't think that was on that sprint. It was a bit later than that, I think. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, I mean, we've purposely not slotted in and alpha starts here because of the unknowns that sit inside a discovery. Okay. So you need to keep it reasonably fluid in there. The intention is that this naturally flows into an alpha, but we don't want to jump too early, because then there'll be a case of backtracking for areas that we've missed. The discovery is really important to understand the problem space. Okay. So that's why we purposely not put a alpha starts here point. But we'll have a much clearer picture of an indication on that in the new year. Okay. Because of where our focus will be, and you'll find out as well at the same time in sessions like these.
Okay, right. Thanks,
that helps.
I think
it does. Yes.
To say as well as the point at which we would want to start alpha is the point where we have kind of hypotheses that we want to test. So once we've kind of think we know something about our users, and we think, okay, this is a problem they have, and we want to test a way of solving it. That's where we move into.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thanks for the questions, though. Any more questions from anyone? Sorry, I know we've didn't leave a large space of time for questions on that, but we wanted to say a lot of what we've been up to. But are there any more questions?
I think we must have explained everything really, really well.
We obviously covered absolutely every part of it. I'm sure we haven't.
I've got another one, guys.
I was going to say, yeah, the mic is yours if you've got some more.
I see somebody else has got their hand up, though.
Okay.
Alex, can you see whose it is?
Yeah, Raz.
Oh, Raz. Go on, Raz.
Hello. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for that great presentation. I have a quick question. The presentation, obviously, it demonstrates a greenfield approach. a very user-centric greenfield approach, which is really good. I just want to throw something in. So we're also dealing with an existing application, right? So there's an existing legacy application, you could call it, with an existing data structure and reporting requirements. I'd like to know what strategy you are going to implement to incorporate the existing knowledge that's already in place as part of your kind of discovery process.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the main way we're doing it is that, you know, we have our subject matter experts as part of the discovery team. So we've got Tim, Lucy, and Lisa who know a huge amount about it. So we're getting loads of information from them. We've been looking through the guidance that's currently on the website and looking through the process that currently exists. We've also been given walkthroughs of the systems and the tech that's used to understand how that all works at the moment. And we've also got hold of some data from the customer hub and website feedback and analytics to try and understand what users are having problems with the current process. So that's kind of telling us where those pain points are and telling us where we need to kind of focus our efforts.
Thanks. Yeah. The reason why I asked the question is because if there are, like, for example, changes to existing processes, it could have wider implications. So it's worth factoring those things in. If, for example, you wanted to remodel the data or anything on process-wise, it's worth just kind of factoring that in to support impact on, say, other streams of work or any kind of say backward kind of compatibility kind of scenarios. It's just worth factoring them into your kind of project plans as such.
Yeah, that's definitely right, and that's definitely something we are trying to do as much as possible. If you have anything that you think that we should really be looking at as well, then we are super happy to get feedback and get kind of guidance on where we should be looking at.
Thank you, team. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Robert, you did have a couple more or another question?
I did. I'm also getting my garage roof fixed, and the guy doing it has just appeared at the front door. So this may be a really quick question, right? Yeah, but also in Pete's slides, I think early on you put up a slide and said what we can expect at the end of this and what we can expect, or what we definitely will not be getting at the end of this. Was that the discovery phase, or was that the whole
discovery?
It's just phase. Discovery. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Discovery. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole different set of questions and expectations around an alpha, but I just thought because we're specifically in a discovery here, we're not going to have the things that we're not going to have in these first few weeks. It's just important to establish those in place. So don't worry that we're not suggesting that's the only thing that will come from these.
No, I just wanted to make sure I got it right. Okay, thank you.
No, that's fine. Good luck with the roof.
Yeah. Storm Arwen put paid to my garage roof.
Storm. We have drifted over. Thank you so much for staying on. Are there any more questions?
Just a quick one, if I may, Peter. Just from a point of view of working with NRW colleagues, how have they accepted this sort of way of working? Because that's the bit I'm interested in. Is it's a new way of working. How are they finding it? It might not be for you to answer, by the way.
Yeah, they're all on here.
So that might be for me to answer. No, it is a new way of working, and we're doing stand-ups every day. It is quite difficult sometimes to sort of fit it in with the day job because there's a lot of meetings and a lot of things shifting around. And we've just done one of our retros, which is one of the fixed meetings, and we just identified in there actually for some of our core collaborators and our core team, we need to try and put things in the diary a little bit in advance to make sure that we fix known meetings, workshops, to make sure that we can get them in. So yeah, it is. But the user needs part, which is really the whole new bit, is really just kicking off now. So I'm hoping that we'll have a much better sort of discussion topic to talk about for the next show and tell, because we should have got a lot more meat and bite marks into our project.
Great. I'll ask the question again next time then.
Yeah.
Thanks, Harry. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, I think from our side though, everyone's been really enthusiastic and willing to try and learn and do something different, which is not always the case. So we've been really grateful for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're learning about this together as well as we go forward as a team. So yeah, it has to work for all of us. So it's good. It's been a really positive start. One learning from this is that I probably should make these sessions an hour instead of 45 minutes. So that's something I've learned from this. That's how fluid we're working. But are there any more questions before I let everyone escape from this session? I have recorded it, so I'm so pleased to see so many people able to join this close to Christmas. I did get a few unexpectedly people that couldn't make it, but we'll have a recording of this and which we can share out. If you do have any questions, Alex's email was on the slide. We'll be sending the slide deck out. If you've any burning questions, we've just run out of time on them, please do fire them our way. And hopefully we can bring them back up again when we meet again. But if there isn't anything else, thank you again for your time. Have a fantastic Christmas. If we don't speak again, some of you. And yeah, all the best. Thanks very much. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks all.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.